Hi, welcome to my channel Too Rational. I'm Pranay Sharma, and in this video we'll talk about what constitute as plagiarism in IFoA examination and how to avoid it. Let's start with first, what is plagiarism? Plagiarism is an act of copying or including the work of another person or your own previously assessed original work in your own work, intentionally or unintentionally, without proper acknowledgement. When I say your own previously assessed original work, that means, for example, in CM1 examination, IFoA asks a question about advantages of keeping reserve, and when you give CS2, you get the same question, that is advantage of keeping reserves. You cannot write the exact same answer even though it was an original answer in CM1 examination. That scenario is a theoretical scenario. We never get similar type of questions. We never have such situations where we will be answering a question in exactly the same way in multiple examinations, so you don't have to worry about it. In its most common form, plagiarism involves copying and pasting or reproducing material directly from another source. This could include core reading text, acted resources, and or information obtained directly from internet sources or textbook. Let's talk about what are the different types of plagiarism. The first we'll be considering is verbatim or word for word quotation. Now, any quotation must always be identified with referencing of the sources used. It is acceptable to reproduce this with questions where content such as definition and listing of principles are required. The second will be copying from the internet. Information derived from the internet must be adequately referenced. That means you should write the URL of the site that you are using for that reference. The third is paraphrasing. Paraphrasing the work of others by altering a few words and changing their order is plagiarism. The last would be use of material written by professional agencies or other persons. You should neither make use of professional agencies in the production of your work nor submit materials which have been written for you, even with the consent of the person who has written it. That means if you are joining some tuition classes and they give you how to write a particular question, you should not write it directly word to word from that. You should write it in your own words. Now let's talk about how to avoid plagiarism. First and foremost, you must ensure that any work you submit for any assessment is your own. Where a question is asked for content such as definitions or listing principles which the IFoA recognizes you may have memorized, you will not generally be investigated for plagiarism where such similarities is identified. In answering other question types, if your response includes quotations, theories, ideas, datas, or any other material which are the work of another person, you must ensure that you have taken all responsible steps to acknowledge the source. This includes all books, study material, and internet sources. Any such references should be a very small part of your answer. So if you are actually referring textbook, you are writing a certain paragraph from a textbook or some other book or maybe internet sources, that should be a very small part of your answer. It should not be that just you are copy pasting from somewhere else, acknowledging it and expecting IFoA to give you full marks. Lastly, we'll talk about how can we use those references. Acknowledging work that is not your own is a fundamental concept. Using material directly from a textbook, core reading, or an internet site should be referenced. Material that should be referenced might include a definition, a list, a table, or a chart, or any material that is not written in your own words. You should note that where answers require content such as definition or listing principles, IFoA examiners and markers are familiar with these questions, and you will not normally be investigated where you include small amounts of quoted material without referencing. There are many different ways that you can refer the material that is not your own, but for the purpose of the examination, we are looking for a simple referencing system that will allow a marker to locate the source of the work you are using. For example, a reference could be as simple as IFoA CM1 CMP 2019, that is the book that you are referring, chapter 2, page number 13. The reference should come at the end of the sentence or paragraph that you are referencing. For internet sources, you could use the following format where you just list down the actual URL of that particular source. Now, as I said, very rarely you are going to need this. Now, the key avoiding plagiarism is to acknowledge work that is not your own and show the marker where the material has come from. Although the best way to avoid plagiarism is you answer everything in your own words. I hope this was helpful for you to understand what Institute thinks plagiarism is and how to avoid it. Like, share and subscribe this video, and I will see you in the next one.